Episode 6 of Consistency Podcast is here. My name is Steve from Gloucester, and there's definitely a lot to unpack this episode. What I first wanted to do was get more in depth on the question that I had tried to ask Dave Portnoy last Friday on the Kirk Minahan show. What I wanted to ask Dave is whether or not he felt that YouTube's request of Dave and Barstool to edit the first 3 episodes of Surviving Barstool more of YouTube against Dave rather than YouTube against Barstool. Because Dave has always said that it's Barstool against the world. Whenever he's had an issue with a company or a person in the past, I've really felt like it was more about Dave than it was about Barstool. And I feel that people are against Dave sometimes because of his political leanings. I mean, he's interviewed President Trump. He's been interviewed by Tucker Carlson on the Tucker Carlson show and on Twitter multiple times. He agrees with Elon Musk's political views. And from what we can tell about Dave, he's right-leaning in his political views. And I feel like YouTube is more left-leaning. So I feel like when this issue came up with Barstool in the first 3 episodes, I think YouTube being so left-leaning really made this about Dave. And if Dave never interviewed President Trump, if he never went on with Tucker or didn't have some sort of business relationship with Elon, I don't think that there would have been this request to edit anything. But because Dave being who Dave is, I believe he's always going to have that bullseye. He's always going to have that target on him. And it's wrong. I mean, right here, what YouTube's doing is they're trying to tell Dave and Barstool that free speech isn't allowed. And I really felt like Dave made the right decision to pull those episodes from YouTube. And I really wish that he would have given me more of an answer on whether or not I felt like this was more of YouTube against Dave than YouTube against Barstool. Because I really feel like this is more of an attack on Dave than anything. And I do like the decision that Dave made to move this on to pay-per-view. Have the next 3 episodes come out at $9.99 and then release it for free to anybody who doesn't want to pay the $9.99. And I wonder why people wouldn't pay the $9.99 for something that they really enjoy. I mean, if you think about the next 3 episodes, that's just $3.33 an episode. I mean, that's 3 cups of coffee right there. And why wouldn't you do that to support free speech? To support Dave, to support Barstool? And certainly, as you guys know, this isn't a political podcast, and I'm definitely not going to go down that road. But why wouldn't you want to know in real time what is going on with the show that, as Andy Mayo said last Friday, and we'll get to him in a minute, is one of the best produced shows that Barstool has? And like Andy said, if Kirk Minahan wasn't a part of Surviving Barstool, this would be a show that myself and many would watch because it's produced so well. I think Jeff D. Lowe does an amazing job as the producer and the host of that show. So why would people wait? I mean, wouldn't you be bothered by the spoilers? And you know Kirk's going to talk about it on his show. You know that there's going to be spoilers on Twitter. So why wouldn't you pay the $9.99? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But if you are that person who can't afford it or is against giving Barstool more money and you can deal with the spoilers, then by all means wait. But I think the $9.99 is more about free speech at this point than it is any theory that this was a bait and switch or anything like that, which is just total nonsense. So, like I said, I don't want to make this political. I totally don't want to get into that realm. I'll save that for people that know about politics much more than me. But I do want to flip over to this past Friday and my second appearance on the Kirk Minahan Show, which I felt went amazingly well. There were so many people who called into the show or that were interviewed, starting with the Rico call 2 minutes in. Then you had Dave Portnoy, Kevin Clancy, Jeff D. Lowe. All were part of the show. We had a call into Mutt, a call into Julie. I mean, that show from beginning to end, it just flowed perfectly. And I know it was titled The Show from Hell, but I thought a show from hell going over 3 hours was pretty cool. And it was great experience for me and a great learning lesson to be part of a show that was so important and so heavily invested by a lot of people. Because when news hit that Dave was going to be part of the show at 10 a.m., you know a lot of people were tuning into that show and they wanted to hear what Dave had to say. And, you know, it was great to be a part of that. And I know my question to Dave didn't go over well, but just being a part of that, I mean, that's great for experience alone. And I felt I did better in my questions to KFC and Jeff D. Lowe. And I know that what I learned from that show is only going to help me moving forward in anything that I do, be it this podcast or any other projects or any other invitations that people may have for me going forward. And personally, I thought I did better this past Friday than I did the Friday before with Mutt. I was a lot more comfortable in the chair. I spoke into the microphone the whole time. I think Kirk really enjoyed the activity with the Springsteen song Bracket. I felt like I was a lot more toned down with the Richie Aprile quote-unquote act, and I think having a cold that I'm still trying to beat here helped toning me down. And it meant a lot at the end of the show to hear from Kirk that he thought I did well and that I'll be back in the studio. And he also said he liked me. I don't really buy that, but the facts are that it looks like an invitation is going to happen again. I don't know if it's going to be soon or not, but I did tell Coleman and Gus after the show that I'm definitely wide open. My December calendar is open, so if they would like to have me back in, I'm more than welcome that I would accept. And, you know, certainly I want to try to get that card game set up with the guys in Gloucester and Gus and Coleman. I think that'd be great material for the show. And who knows what will happen going forward, but I really feel like I've made enough strides in the first 2 episodes that there will be a 3rd episode and maybe more. And I've really enjoyed the feedback that I've received on Twitter. I know that there was somebody who said Steve should be the every Friday guest. I mean, who knows? I don't see that happening quite yet, but to get that positive feedback and to also hear the negative feedback, I mean, that means a lot to me. I mean, I read everything and comment and, you know, try to get involved. But just knowing that I'm making some sort of an impact, good or bad, that's only going to help me going forward. And it was a tough episode to go through because of Andy Mayo, who I really don't know how I would classify him. I wouldn't call him miserable because he is a nice guy. I mean, we talked pre-show, we talked for a couple minutes, and I learned a little bit about him. I know he lives in Connecticut and his family and all this stuff. But when he got on the show, it just seemed like he was neurotic. He was nervous. He was uptight. His questions didn't make any sense. And this infatuation with the Princess Bride, I don't understand it. And I don't know if it's an act that he pulls. I don't know if he really believes the questions that he asks. I definitely don't think he reads the room at all. I don't think he even pays attention to Kirk. Because you can see Kirk will put his head down and just be really flustered by Andy. He's just, I don't know. The only way I can kind of figure out Andy, and I think the best way to kind of describe him is, I mean, the guy's just a boob. And I just think he feels like he's bigger than the show. And he feels like there's this sense of entitlement that he doesn't have. He's not relevant. I'm not relevant. Most people that come into that studio are not relevant. The producers aren't relevant. The only person relevant is Kirk. And I just feel like Andy wants to be Kirk's best friend. And that's never going to happen. So, in spite of Andy, I really felt like the show was awesome. And I look forward to what lies ahead. It can only get better, and there can only be more opportunities if I continue to learn, and I think I'm going to do that going forward. I mean, I've definitely picked up a lot of mistakes that I've made. I've tried to correct them, and I will be doing that going forward. And all I can hope for is another opportunity and another chance to prove myself that I can be that rotating third chair that, some people in the world are, like Patrick Ford or, Montante, for example. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, and I'll continue to do the Consistency podcast. And if I'm invited to any other show, I'll definitely go on. But I've really enjoyed this process so far, and I look forward to what lies ahead. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up for episode 6. There will be an episode 7 at some point next week. And until then, enjoy your week, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.